Well, welcome to this is actually the first video I've done here at WBC this year. I'm here with Greg Smith, or Gregory M. Smith, if you want to be official, right?
There's so many of us.
So many, yeah. But Greg is one of the guys that we try to talk to every single year that we come here, because you always have about 35 games going.
Well, I would argue at this point it's because it's tradition.
Sure, well, that's true. And we're friends, right? I mean, it's good to catch up and talk, but I
have no idea.
Yeah, but I love your games, and I love talking to you, and
you get it. I actually appreciate your insights. As a matter of fact, you create work for me at times.
Yeah, well, you know, I will not apologize for that.
Well,
but now remember, you've got to, on this track, put victory conditions. Just make like victory boxes.
Oh, jeez.
You got to.
You're just trying to get your name in another rule book. I know, I see how it is.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like, for example, last year, Grant said, hey, you need to have stugs. You don't have any stugs in your Panther game, you know, for the stug life. And I was like, all right, so here we go.
And you added like every stug ever known to man.
No, almost 16 of them.
Okay,
anyway.
so 16, you know.
So you know, it's like in the Army, we used to have this expression called mission creep.
Sure.
All right, so we start off with 24 German tanks in Panzerace, and which is pretty close to done. It would have been done, except this guy said you need stugs, and so now from 24 40 vehicles, I'm up to 40 vehicles.
I do not apologize. I don't apologize.
Is it
so.
It made it a better game. So actually,
yeah.
if you like Stugs, you can thank him. It's his fault.
Well, I'm not sure how you make a game covering German armor without having a Stug. I know it's a mobile gun. I get it, but you gotta have it in there.
Well, guess what?
It's in there.
I came to that conclusion that you were correct, sir.
Booyah! That's what I'm talking about.
Fair enough.
So that was one. We didn't get necessarily a chance to play it.
No,
but we did look at it.
Yeah, it's
good.
Not going to be terribly different than
British tank case
or American tank case.
Yep.
It's the core system is essentially pretty stable and it works.
Yep. So it's that narrative-driven.
Not that different. Yeah.
Roll on the charge.
The huge problem with the Panzerace is that it goes from 39 to 45.
Yeah.
So it's the whole shooting match of the war. It's like, oh man, so it's a lot longer.
Yeah.
And there's different theaters. You go to North Africa, you go to Russia, you go to Southern Russia, so you could go different places. That added a lot to the content, and then we went from 24 vehicles up to 40, thanks to you. That added a lot to the content. So a little bit of mission creep there, but it's a better game.
Well, it's interesting because...
And it's bigger. It's certainly a bigger game, but
American Tank Ace was like one of the thin boxes, like the 1-inch box.
Yeah, no way.
This is going to be a 3-inch box.
This is going to be a big. Well, this is like the tank version of Western Front Ace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, big.
This covers a whole bunch of stuff. So I know you said that's nearing done. I'm not going to ask you when it might be done.
Don't ask me.
But it probably just needs final art and a slot, right? A print slot.
Yeah, the art's done. It just needs not just a print slot. It needs a final review.
Got it.
So there's a guy right now, an outside reviewer who doesn't know anything about it, and he's
reading it over, and
he knows about he knows he's interested in Panzers, so he's the final proofing check, if you will.
Okay.
It's been through several checks, so.
But that's probably somewhere from 9 months to a year and a half.
Down the road. It's got to go to China and come back on a slow boat and all that.
So we're probably talking next year.
Yeah, probably realistically.
But that's definitely one look forward to if you like the tank games that he's done. Obviously, you've done sub games, you've done aircraft games, now tank, and you're a tanker, right?
Don't forget Zeppelins.
Well, Zeppelins, right? I mean, there's so many.
I guess those are technically aircraft. Yeah, all right.
You know, at one point I thought you had mentioned that one was a magazine war game, or was going to be a magazine war game. Do I remember that incorrect? Gotha Raider.
You remember it incorrectly.
Gotha Raider is the
similar game, but different.
Yeah.
No,
sorry.
No, all good.
I get confused. You know, we see a lot of stuff.
But speaking of magazine games, we did. I saw this Yamato movie with English subtitles, and it just was amazing. I think it came out in 2003, 2004. It was sort of like a Japanese, their version of Band of Brothers or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be realistic.
We're shooting a video.
And it was just just an amazing movie, and I mean, obviously lots of CGI and what have you, but
Yeah.
I thought, wow, this is just such a story that here's the super battleship, and it's getting hammered by 400 American aircraft. I was like, I need to do a game on this, and I was so pumped up. And then I bought this book, which
And
was
that
like,
book is incredible. Technical readouts
This is
of
just-
the battleship.
this
specifications.
Book, it's just this book really was cool.
Incredible.
So
that book is Battleship
Yamato
and Musashi.
And the funny thing about it is, it's an Osprey book,
There you
which
go.
you normally think of as, oh, those guys make the little skinny little.
that's heft.
Yeah, this is a real book.
That's a big book.
So I made the game, and believe it or not, Ty Bomba calls me up and goes, "Oh man, this guy dropped out from issue 112. I need a game." I'm
Yeah.
like,
I got this thing.
despite the fact I swore I'd never do another magazine game, guess what? This works. This fits.
And actually, I really like that it's a magazine game because it's going to play in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a no-win situation.
Yeah, I
right?
mean,
it's
and
very
people are-
difficult.
And people are like, "Well, how can you do a game on the Yamato? It stands no chance." I'm like, "Hey, there's been games done on the Alamo,
Well, yeah, plenty of games on the Alamo. Yeah.
games on Custer in
Yep.
his last stand." So
Yep.
it's along those veins, along that vein of you're not ever going to really win. You're not going to sail off into the sunset
No.
happily. But
No.
but the thing is, it's for what it is, which is it's not going to be. It doesn't overreach.
No.
It's just simple
Well, it's-
little, you attack the battleship,
Yep.
you try to do the best you can.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to get sunk, but it just tells an amazing story. I mean,
Yeah.
what these guys knew that they were going on a death ride.
Yeah.
And death ride of the Yamato, 7
Yep.
April 1945. So,
Well, I
think
got
it's
to
fun.
play it, right? We played.
And did you
two
like it?
waves? Did we do 2 waves or just 1 wave?
No, we did.
just did 1.
no, we did 4 waves.
Oh, 4 waves. Okay. And
You got to the torpedoes.
Oh yeah, well,
got the
I survived barely, but I had a blast.
Glad you liked it.
The dice are very unkind always.
All right.
Okay, so the next one that we wanted to talk about was
Carrier Ace.
Carrier Ace.
So we talked about this last year, and
Yep.
I said, I'm stuck, and I was stuck. And that's kind of, I don't know, part of the joy of game design to me.
Yeah. Is solving problems, right?
Bingo.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like getting stuck sometimes because then I think and I have to think. And so that's part of the fun for me is figuring out the answers.
Yep.
And we talked about, I said I have this good tactical system. I know how to and last year we said, for example, here's the aircraft, the sort of the my version prototype, and we actually have some artists working now. So
Very
we
nice.
have made progress. So there's progress being made. But I was stuck on the, not the fighting, but the overall operational framework. I couldn't figure that out. And so then I finally figured that out. So I finally have an operational framework for the game. And with that, I actually put in Grant's suggestion.
And actually, it's called out in the rule book, so I'm very proud of that. That's very cool. But I did mention
I made Grant's day by
you need to
putting him
flower up
in
the language,
book.
though. There
Yeah,
needs to be
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of expletives and stuff like that thrown in.
Yeah. Keep the head small, brother. But I was just so thankful I finally cracked the code on that. So where this game is right now, we do have an artist, and I get some design help from Ray Fiore. And Ray is working on another game for Compass. He's kind of my Pacific guru.
Okay.
So he's working on Cactus Air Force.
Yep.
And so that's his, I think it's one of his first designs anyway. But so he's doing the scenarios for Carrier Ace and has made a few suggestions already. So that's good.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, we started the artwork. That's always a start. When's this coming? I don't know.
And you've got all 5 of the major carrier battles.
Yeah,
right?
it's-
Santa Cruz, Midway, Philippine Sea.
And that was part of the cracking the nut on how do I do the operational framework, because this is, at its heart, a very tactical game. It's just like any of the other Ace games. You're not in charge of a carrier or a carrier group or a fleet no, you're a single pilot. Now, you could be a fighter pilot, you could be a torpedo bomber pilot, or a dive bomber pilot, your choice. But you're still a single pilot. But then I built this operational framework around it where you go from major event to major event in the Pacific from 41 to 45. And it actually, well, 42 to 45. I mean, we don't really have Pearl Harbor in this game.
Yeah.
But it works. So I was kind of I was kind of happy with it.
Well, and I was looking through the rules. It looks really well done, and I actually you're going to loan me a prototype. And I'm going to give it a play. I definitely am interested in anything in the Pacific. I'm always drawn to. So.
As long as you don't forget, I want the prototype back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I will get it back to you.
Just remember where you found it.
Absolutely. What else we got? We looked at a couple of. I want to make sure we do Insurgent Tide.
Insurgent Tide is really was so easy to research because I was there.
Do you know an expert? Yeah. Do you know an expert on that?
Yeah, his name is me. So it's first game I ever designed where I was a participant.
Sure. Yeah.
But basically, it's the second. Well, we call it the Iraq War. You know, the Gulf War was in '91.
Yep.
Which I also participated in. That's how old I am. It makes me feel like a fossil.
I was a senior in high school.
Yeah, well, it was in '91, but the second one, '03 to 2008. And so it's counterinsurgency. So but the Tide system works really well. So you rebuy your cards.
Yep.
Just like Pacific Tide, just like Imperial Tide, Rebel Tide, which is still in the works. So it's got that card rebuy system, which works really well.
And
Players
it's really
love
good too, absolutely. Because
Well,
you can buy good cards, but at what cost? The cost of not getting access to other cards.
And that's the key to the game, is you always want the player to be $1 short.
Yep,
You know, from what he really wants to do. So Insurgent Tide is really come along right now. The design is complete and it's solid.
Yeah.
It's fun to play.
Yeah, it looks
Takes
good.
a couple hours. And right now, finalizing the art. Haven't got the art for the counters yet.
Okay.
But the map's done.
Nice.
And the cover's done. And as a matter of fact, I'll show you the cover.
Yeah, it's right over there.
If I can find it. I don't know where.
Right here, Jacobite Rising.
Yeah, here we go. So the cover's done. So
yeah, it looks good.
Insurgent Tide. This is basically how I spent my summer vacation, as I love to say.
Yep.
But it's a good game. Yeah, and I'm excited for it because I think it has the potential to do really well. And and the other thing is interesting to me. Not a whole lot of games out on 03 to 08.
No.
Right?
No. Yeah, there's not a lot.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is it's a recent war, right?
It is.
People struggle with that concept a little bit.
Actually, I just had a discussion about this the other day on the board. People were saying, people modeling the current Russian-Ukrainian war.
Yep.
And my take on that is, I don't have a philosophical problem with, the bodies are still warm and you're trying to cash in.
Right.
Some people, they're literally, that's what they're trying to do is cash in.
That makes sense.
Okay, but there is that demand. People want to know, and people,
there's something to learn from it, right? To understand it.
My argument would be, though, the main heartache I have with games on recent wars is that the order of battles are horrifically wrong at best.
Sure.
It's
all classified stuff. You're just guessing.
For the most part, and the information just doesn't exist.
Yep.
So how can you do a really good game on that? It might be a good game, but are you learning anything really?
Right.
Yeah, I would argue not.
Yeah.
So I have an issue with that. Now, for Insurgent Tide, 2003, you say, well, that's pretty recent. Well, it's recent for me. I remember it like it was yesterday, but when you think about it, good Lord, that's
20 years, almost 20 years.
Over 20 years
over
ago.
21,
with the start,
yeah.
So it's
time.
20 years is a while. So it's a generation. So I think it's distant enough that it's worth doing.
Yeah.
So
I'm very much excited about that one. You have a couple of others kicking around. You have a new Vikings game based on conquistadors.
I like to keep myself busy, number one, and number two. When I was in college, I loved Conquistador. The original one, SPI, came in the magazine. And I said, you know what? I bet you I could make a Vikings game about that. And so
You did.
I did. Well, this is the rough draft.
Sure.
So here's my Vikings Dawn. I think I'm going to prototype name it. And you go
Dawn of
around and
Vikings, I think you were talking about.
you pillage and you steal people's valuables and but you also create settlements
Yep.
in the heart of Russia and in Iceland and Greenland and
And try to keep them alive, right?
try to keep them alive. Yeah. So I mean, it's a 3-player.
Okay.
So you could be the Danish Vikings or the Norwegian Vikings or the Swedish Vikings. So it's sort of loosely patterned after Conquistador from the original SPI because I loved it so much. I thought, I'll try to make it the same. I don't have X's, but
And this one hasn't necessarily been announced yet or even
approved.
yet, but something to also...
I think I'll get the
Get it
nod.
approved, yeah.
Bill's pretty good to me.
Got it.
I'll talk him into it.
Well, I know you were planning...
Well, by the way, the other reason I know that he'll almost for sure a gimme is he likes the off the wall topics.
Something different, yeah.
Well, I mean, how many World War II games do we need at this point?
Yeah.
Do I need to do the 1200th version of the Bulge?
Right.
Or should I do a Vikings game?
Yeah, not a whole lot of Viking games out
Yeah,
there.
so what the heck? So there's that aspect to it.
But you're always busy. I mean, you've got a lot. Oh, and then your Gladiators
I'm
game.
trying-
That was the
Oh,
other
yeah.
one I wanted to
I
maybe
forgot
give an
about
update
that.
on. It has some final art.
Yeah, so Gladiators is coming along. We actually did that, was that 2 or 3 years ago? 2 years ago, I
It
think.
was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
So the Gladiators game is complete. It's just
Yep.
a question now of finishing the artwork up. And the problem with the Gladiator game was, at one point, I really wanted to have miniatures,
Yeah.
because they're so cool. And in fact, I bought some little Gladiator.
we played with them,
with
yep.
the miniatures,
Yep.
right? So, and that just adds a lot. But
Yep.
when we looked at the cost and the weight and the and having them painted, even having them unpainted. I mean,
Yeah.
it would have made a $50 game $150.
Sure.
It was just a non-starter.
Well,
which
and the
is
reality,
sad.
the reality of our world today is you can go out and either buy pre-made minis for that, or
yeah.
you can even get a 3D.
They're not that
printed-
much. I mean, they're not.
You can
but
find them.
Most of them should
Yeah.
be easy to find if you really want.
Yep.
them. So what we decided to go with is the. You've seen those little leaders in like We the People and Hannibal and the little dude that's on the plastic stand and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
march him around.
Yep.
That's what we're gonna have for
Yeah.
the Gladiators. So
Yep.
we're gonna have a little front bed.
Standee with, yep. It'll work. It'll work.
It'll work for the
cool
stock
thing-
version.
The cool thing about that
If you
game,
don't play, if you buy the Gladiator game that I do and you don't
Yeah.
buy miniatures for it, you're out. All right. Oh wait, I probably can't say that.
yeah,
Edit
but-
that part out.
Yeah, but the thing I love about that game is the combat system. It's based on the Down in Flames.
Yeah,
kind
it's
of card,
funny.
counter card, counter move. It's just really good.
It works. It just gives you a feel of a fluid fight.
Yep.
Because it's so back and forth.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it fun. I mean, I think. That's what we're trying to do here. Besides learn a little history, is have fun.
some
you
fun,
know what the
yeah.
heck? And so it works.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about it is that
Yeah.
it actually works. But,
Any other things that are down the road that you've thought about or you've kicked around or?
Oh man. Well, I didn't bring actually all my projects.
Sure, no.
I think the Viking. Oh well, actually, darn it, I probably let the cat out of the bag
Well,
When
people
I
like to hear that kind of stuff too.
when I showed you my
Oh yeah.
book.
Yep.
So,
Spanish Tide, right?
well, I think
I just outed it.
I think we're not. I don't think we're going to call it. I'm probably going to call it Fascist Tide.
Okay. There you go.
Something along those lines.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not the initial name for this project was Secret Tide because it was a secret. Because I'm working at the main designer of this game. Actually, is you may have heard of a game that he worked on many years ago. It's, maybe Axis and Allies.
Oh yeah.
You ever heard of it?
Larry Harris?
No, this
No.
is Michael and Vitali.
Okay.
So he was on the team. He didn't actually design.
Got it.
But he worked on it.
Got it. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Got experience.
Yeah. So Michael Vitale, and he actually played. He liked Imperial Tide so much. He said this game is awesome.
Yeah.
And he goes, I want to make a game using your Tide system. I was like, dude, I steal mechanics from everybody. Oh God, not only do you have your blessing, I'm interested. I'd love to play it. He made a game, a Desert War game.
Okay.
So it's 1940 to 42.
Okay.
So I think roughly that's it, or it's the Tobruk whole thing there.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And he used the Tide system,
Nice.
card rebuy and all that stuff. The only thing he had to do differently is instead of years, he had to use blocks
Okay.
because it didn't last 5 years, but
Right.
it did last 2.5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So each block is like half a year,
Okay.
and that made it make sense.
Got it.
And so, I don't know. Michael and I have hit it off. He's a good cat.
Okay.
And
Is that game going to be published with someone, or did he just make it for fun?
what?
Well,
Yeah, Compass.
oh, okay. So he's already got a buyer for that.
Yeah, he cranked this game out in 6 months. He
Okay.
brought a beautiful prototype to the Compass Con, and I played it last November. I said, dude, this is awesome.
Uh huh.
So he does really good work. So when I saw his skills
Yeah.
in what he created, I said, this guy is worth teaming up with.
Yeah.
And so I said, dude, let's do a game. Actually, no, I think he approached me. Let's do a game, but I had no
Got
reservations.
it. Got it.
And he said, what are we going to do? Let's do the Tide system with something else. And I'm like, well, he goes, what about, the Spanish Civil War? Not a whole lot of, there's a few games out.
A few. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not,
Yep.
it's not like you're doing another game on the Battle of the Bulge.
Right.
Right. So it's,
There's only maybe like less than 10 games.
Yeah, so-
Bulge, there's hundreds. Right.
so I was like, all right, Michael, great idea, Secret Tide, let me
Yeah.
do some research. And because I don't know jack about the Spanish Civil War, other
Yeah.
than the fact it was Franco and it's sort of the
Yep.
prelude to World War II. The more I read about it, it's like, oh my God. Well, first off, both sides were horrible people. Both sides. It's like there's nobody really nice
to root for.
There's nobody nice to root for in this game. You might want to call it Fascist Tide just because it was the rise of Franco.
Got it.
But they were horrible people, but of course they got all the tanks and support from Italy and Germany.
Yep.
And the communists, socialists, all flavors of
Yeah.
pink political
Yep.
spectrum there.
There's a lot of different.
Oh,
factions.
it's crazy. I mean,
Yep.
it's the UGT and the POUM and this political group and that political group. And, but they're just terrible. I mean, they slaughtered a whole bunch of people, which of course Franco in his propaganda machine,
Yeah.
built that up while forgetting to mention the fact that they were doing the same thing. They were slaughtering the communists.
We always repress that information, right?
Yeah, so I mean, there was nobody was clean in that
Yeah.
war. It was terrible. I mean, both sides were essentially butchering civilians when they could and doing all kinds of horrible things.
Yeah.
It is a very interesting political situation, and it is. I think it'll make for a
Should
good.
be interesting.
It'll
Look
be
at it.
probably like Insurgent Tide is real heavy political.
Right.
I mean, there was some fighting, but you're fighting insurgents. It's the insurgents. You got to win the heart. That's heavy political. Imperial Tide, my World War I game, very heavy combat.
Yep.
So the politics is really a non-issue in that game.
Yep.
In the Civil War Tide, I have a little bit of politics in Rebel Tide because
You're trying to get Britain to come in and
Britain and France
Yep.
and it made sense to have a little bit of the
Yeah.
politics in it and the Emancipation Proclamation and the Gettysburg Address and all right,
Yeah.
politics makes a little bit of sense. This game's probably going to be balanced,
okay. Something to look forward to.
so there's definitely going to be a lot of conventional combat. I mean, they have Panzer I tanks rolling around and the Condor Legion
Yeah.
from Germany, and
Yeah.
they had T-26 tanks from Russia, and so there is definitely going to be conventional warfare, but
Okay.
the politics is going to be just as large a part of the whole overall operation, I
Okay.
think.
Well, something to look forward to
It
for
needs
sure.
to be. Well,
Yeah.
and it's going to be difficult because a lot of games, I think, focus on one or the other. They might have a few elements of both, but
Right.
usually it's real heavy one way or the other. And my gut feeling tells me this needs to be about half and half.
Balanced approach. Cool.
So,
All right.
but yeah, so
Well,
I'm staying busy.
Yeah, and always appreciate talking to you. Love seeing you every year. I
too,
appreciate the fact that you spent some time with me. And I made the comment, I wish we had like 3 days to sit
Yeah.
here and talk and just catch up and play games. But you got a life. I got other things to do. So,
Yeah.
But hey, I've been Grant for the Players Aid with Greg Smith.
And I'm Greg.
Been a pleasure talking to him, and thanks for watching.